What's up, Attack MMA? I'm your host, Zach Weicker, and today we got a very special guest. He's a professional fighter with a 9-0 record. He'll be competing at APFC 16 for the vacant middleweight belt on March 23rd. Please welcome Jon Kunneman. John, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. And before we get into the fight, this is probably the first time a lot of people are seeing or hearing about you. So, to give a quick background on who you are and where have you come from, how and when did you get into the sport of MMA?
Yeah, I got into it real young. I've been training I'm 25 now for over 10 years. I just fell into it. I love the sport. I love competing, and so I've been in all martial arts, wrestling, boxing, jujitsu, and it's just always been a passion of mine to compete, and that's what I do. So I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and then after high school, I moved out to New Mexico to train at Jackson Wink. And then 3 years ago, I moved out to Colorado to train with Elevation Fight Team.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's been 10 years. I've been training around when you've been 15. So obviously it's a long time. But when did you first?
I mean, even before that, like I started out doing MMA classes, boxing, jujitsu, even as like 11 years old. So I've been in the sport for basically grew up in it. So
Yeah, I was gonna say like what was like your first like memory from a young age that you realized, oh, I can do this at a pro level and like this is my dream. I want to pursue this all the way.
yeah, I would say when I was training when I was really young, I was just training because I liked fighting and it was fun. But by the time I was like 16, I knew that I wanted to do this as a career full time.
Going on to your amateur career and pro career, losing's not really a familiar foe to you. You've
Yeah.
won all your pro fights, but you did lose one amateur fight. So what lesson would you say you learned in that fight that's helped propel your career?
I man, I beat that dude up in the first 2 rounds, knocked him down several times. I basically went out to try to take his head off, and I got tired. He held me against the fence the last like half of the fight, and that was basically what gave him the split decision. I learned that you got to go out and you got to fight tactically. You can't just go out and like not think about what you're doing as far as like how hard you're going. You got to conserve energy. And especially when you're fighting, 25-minute fights for world titles, really have to be able to pace yourself, but still fight efficiently at the same time. So that's the biggest thing I learned is like how to game plan my energy going into a fight, how to like go into a fight planning, okay, round one, I'm doing this, round two, I'm doing this, round three. And I learned a little bit more how to structure that going into fights.
For sure. And now you are going into your 10th pro fight, and it will be against Matt Friesen at APFC 16. So, how did that fight come about?
That fight, I got offered the fight, and I was like, absolutely. I know I'm trying to take as many fights as I can, so I can get signed. I think the more wins we get, the more undeniable we become, and that's where I'm trying to win as many fights as possible. So that way, when it's time to get in UFC, we're ready, and B, that we show that um, I have the experience to get signed. So.
Yeah. And are you someone that does a lot of research on your opponent? And if so, what do you know about Matt Friesen's style and his strengths?
He's a striker. He's a boxer. He's got really good hands. He's put some people out. He's got a lot of boxing fights, a lot of boxing experience. I got to be sharp on the feet. I got to make sure my hands are right, my head's moving good, and stay sharp.
Yeah. And again, this might be the first time a lot of people are hearing about you. So you mentioned all your opponent's strengths, but what are your strengths in the MMA scheme and where will you stand out in this fight?
I'm a boxer and wrestler, so I like to throw hands. That's my A game, and then I can also wrestle real well too. So that's kind of what I would say. I'm a boxer wrestler, kind of like an Aaron Pico style. I would say I fight similar to him.
That's a good comparison to have. And looking at your strengths and looking at his strengths, stylistically, how do you see this fight panning out?
I think I can land the bigger shots on the feet. I think I can find the openings that he leaves. We've done a little research on some of his past fights, and I think that we'll find the more effective shots in this fight.
Yeah, and this will be your first time fighting for APFC, Anthony Pettis' promotion. So how excited are you to make your debut for this promotion?
I'm pumped. I think it's a good opportunity. It's on UFC Fight Pass, and getting a UFC Fight Pass title, I think, puts you real close, right in contention to get signed to the UFC. I've already almost got called up twice on short notice this year, so I've had, we're right there, and I think this is this will kind of cap everything off on the way up to the UFC. So I'm really excited.
And you mentioned that you almost got called up twice. So to be so close and not to get the call, how frustrating was that?
Honestly, it wasn't. It was like both on like less than a week notice. I got called up for the Islam card, and I was like, absolutely, I'm in. But they found California has really crazy medicals you got to get done, and most states are standard, just like blood work, physical, and stuff. California, you have to get like an MRI and a heart exam. I don't have that up to date. Most fighters don't. So they were going to get me in to try to get that done, and then they found a middleweight who already had all that completed. So it was just easier for him to sign that. So uh, I wasn't upset. It's just it's part of the process. When my opportunity comes, I got to be ready for it, and I'm going to keep winning fights and training hard and stay ready.
Yeah, and of course, your goal is one day to be a UFC champion, but in Anthony Pettis' promotion, you are fighting for promotion of a former UFC champion. So how cool is that to be fighting for for a guy like Anthony Pettis and to be competing in his promotion?
It's cool. He's a veteran of the sport. He's been in the sport for a very long time. He knows how to do basically everything in the sport. He can promote fights, he can fight himself, he can coach. And so being around people who can even advise me, hey, you look great in your fight. If you're trying to get signed to the UFC, this is what you should try to do next, blah, blah. Like he can, be someone that can help me out. And, if I put on a good performance and I show, everyone that I belong in the UFC, I can, I feel confident that I can ask him for advice on where he thinks I should go next and what I should do. And, I'm very confident they can keep me active, getting me consistent fights too. So,
Yeah, and this fight was originally not supposed to be for the belt, and they added the vacant middleweight title to it. So how
yeah,
important is it for you to get extra hardware after this fight?
I'm pumped. It's to be my third pro title. I think, like I said earlier, winning a UFC Fight Pass title is huge. That a lot of guys get signed off just that alone, and so I think that winning a title for APFC is a real good look for me to get in the UFC.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned you moved to Colorado to train. So how's your training camp been for this fight?
It's been perfect. It's been great. Had great training partners, great looks, great sparring. Everything's been top notch. I'm in shape, and just got to cut a little bit of weight, and I'm ready to go.
Very nice. And I don't know if you trained him for this fight, but I've seen that you've done some sparring with Justin Gaethje. So how's that been like?
He hits like a truck. He spars just like how he fights. Same style, same dude. So he's a machine
Yeah. And
for sure.
he's one of the many UFC fighters that you've had the privilege to train with. So who are some of the toughest guys that you've been around and some of
Um,
the guys that you learned the most with in the training room?
I'd say John Jones probably is just the best. I mean, he's just like he's so good, and he knows what to do at every point in fights. He's just so good. And then another guy that I actually predicted when he was going to fight Izzy, I predicted Sean Strickland to beat him because I was like, dude, Sean is very good, man. He was a very hard round for me. Like it was just like he's such a big guy. He's hard to push backwards, and Sean Strickland, man, I think is actually one of the most underrated people in the UFC even right now. So
Two great answers. And you mentioned training with John Jones, and he's someone that is seen as one of the greatest in the sport. So to get wisdom from him, what was that like?
it's cool, man. It's just that like what he says works and what he does is most likely the right advice because he's been at the top of the sport for since I was in elementary school, basically. So
Yeah. And obviously, you're around the room with all these UFC guys. So seeing these guys that are at the top doing it on a daily basis. Does it motivate you a little more to one day be in the UFC?
Um, Honestly, I mean, I'm extremely motivated already. Outside of that, I don't think it motivates me anymore. I kind of like when I get to the UFC, I'm gonna be pumped, but it's not gonna be like a shock to me. I've been around it. I've cornered fights. I've been with the best fighters in the world for so long at this point that I know it's the next step that's coming. So I'm not really even like feeling any extra type of way about it. It's just where I belong, and that's where I'm going to end up, and that's what I gotta keep working to get there. So,
For sure. And the summer is approaching. A lot of times in the summer, Dana White signs you for the Contender Series. Is that something that you could be looking at, or do you want the straight shot to the UFC?
I mean, I'd like the straight shot, but we're ready for any opportunity that comes.
Very nice. And my final question for you is, what are some dream fights of yours in the UFC, past and present?
I think President share a bullet would be a fun fight. I think that'd be a bonus. The way we both fight, I think we'd both be getting 50 G's on that one. Probably a hospital trip too. uh, past. Uh, Past fight, I think like a Vitor Belfort or Vanderlei Silva. Both those two would be a lot of fun.
For sure, man. Those are some great options out there. Is there anything you want to plug, anything you want to shout out before you head out of here?
Yeah, just shout out to all my sponsors: Symmetry Massage, DCF Guns, OVTV, Patriot Academy. They've all been a huge part of my career and journey up to this point, and I'm very thankful for them.
Very nice. John, it was more than a pleasure having you on. I wish you the best of luck this weekend. Folks, that'll be all for today. Until next time, peace.